Yeah. Welcome to LA on the Rise. It's all about people chasing their dreams, chasing success, and people who are on the rise. Shout out to everyone showing support. It really means a lot.
Big shout out.
Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Today's guest is the owner of a clothing company.
Please introduce yourself.
Jenna from underpaidclothing.com.
Welcome to the Thunderdome. Second time I've called that today. The Thunderdome. Welcome. Jenna from Underpaid. The owner, the CEO, the mastermind.
The
Thank you for
marketer.
having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So, I seen that you really hate job interviews.
Yes, I do.
You don't like proving your worth to someone.
No, I don't.
So
Wait, where'd you see that?
I was watching your Instagram, IGTV.
Instagram video. Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking.
Yeah. It's kind of weird the shit we find out.
Yeah, because I was like, I've said that on a lot of platforms, so I'm like, wait, which platform did you see that on?
No, your IGTV is interesting as fuck.
Thank you. I
You guys
appreciate
really got to check that out. It's not just clothing, talking about mental health, depression, fucking your mental state in the workplace. So go check that out.
Absolutely.
Quick plug.
Absolutely.
Check it out.
Yeah, please do.
But anyway, you said you don't like job interviews. You don't like proving your worth. So I might be taking this a little literal, but what is your worth, and how does someone figure that out?
Yeah.
Wow, hitting me with the hard
Yeah.
questions. Well, I would say I'll speak from it as far as my perspective. Like, I've worked for a lot of companies. I always knew I was worth more than what I was doing, than what I was getting paid. So I knew that I was worth more than what they were giving me. And at every company I've worked at, I felt underpaid. Worked in a lot of toxic work environments that just treated me like crap.
Yeah.
And I definitely knew I was worth more than that. I knew I was worth more than a company just treating me like crap, screaming at me in the middle of the office, you know, working for horrible employers that just don't respect their employees and treat their employees like dirt, but then also expect them to work their ass off for them.
Yeah.
So I would say knowing your worth, it's hard to really answer that question, but it's more of just like, you know it, you know?
Yeah.
You know it's there, and you know you're worth more than whatever that company you're working for is.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
let's just keep it real. The dumbest thing on the job application is the whole, what would you like to get hourly? Like, we all want to write $1 million an hour. It's just the dumbest thing.
They're making you put a price tag on your worth. That's really
on an hour of your life.
Yeah, an hour basis. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and oftentimes that question is asked so that they can pay you as little as possible. You know, like, you never want to put like a salary range on that question, because they're just going to give you the lowest of that range.
Oh, yeah,
Exactly.
no, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that you just got to tell them straight up, give me $20 an hour, I'm not working.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I don't ever want to fucking work, you know what I mean? And that's pretty cool that you took that negative environment and you turned it into this, pretty much. Is that how this kind of came about?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I've constantly been underpaid, treated like crap at a lot of these jobs. And when I got laid off from my corporate job last year, I wanted to actually take a stand against corporate greed and do something about it. So I was at my lowest. I was depressed. I couldn't find work. I was going on job interview after job interview and having to try to prove my worth to these employers that just, you know, I hate job interviews. They ask the weirdest questions sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to actually do something about it, and I decided to. I've actually been wanting to do this for 10 years now. So I decided to, when I'm at my lowest, like, what else do I got to lose? So I decided to just take the leap and go for it.
And
That's awesome.
And that was actually my next question, because it took you 10 years to actually go for it. So why did it take so long? Because I'm assuming it's always been in the back of your mind, like the passion for this and the message. So why did it take so long to get it going?
I've been wanting to do it for so long, and at first I kind of ran out of money financially, and then I just kind of put it aside for a while.
Yeah.
For a while, I was searching for my dream job that I never.
Oxymoron.
I never. Yeah, I never. Let's just say I never found that dream job. So I stopped looking for it and decided to create one on my own. And yeah, so plus, I'm not gonna lie, there was some fear of like taking that risk of going for it, you know, because it's like whenever you start something, you're like, well, what if it doesn't work out? And you know, but I think the important thing is to just get started and go for it and take that first step, you know.
Yeah.
So how long has this been going for?
I started last July, so been in
Wow.
business for a year now.
And what has
Wow.
your response been to other people and customers? How are they responding to it?
They definitely love it. There are a lot of people that are super passionate about it, and they see the same deep meaning that I see in it, and that is like, you know, like fuck corporations, like
Fuck
Suck
corporate
it.
greed.
Fuck, you know exactly which one I'm talking about too. I fucking go there every single day.
you know.
Yeah. Fuck you. No,
If you're an employer right now and you're watching, you know who you
feel
are.
bad. Feel very bad.
Unless
okay?
you're paying your employees properly.
Then feel all right. Mildly.
They're watching you.
Yeah. But you know what's funny is you were talking about like he was just mentioning like people getting behind your movement and stuff like that, and I seen on your Instagram you have a whole section called movement, like you have all these different people wearing your stuff. Somebody, this dab dude from Canada or whatever, I seen he's wearing your stuff. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure I've seen him in like a high society or something like Instagram thing before taking dabs. That's hilarious. And also I seen this dude China Mac, the man himself, is wearing your clothing. That's insane. I'm like a ginormous China Mac fan, and like
Are
I
ya?
had to
That's
keep that
awesome.
to myself when you first walked in because I wanted to save it for the interview because I'm an idiot and I'll say it before it. But what was that like? How did you meet him? What was that all about?
I actually met him at an art show,
Wow.
and I didn't know who he was at the time, but he was kind of standing by my table for a couple minutes, and he was eyeing the shirts, and then his manager was speaking to me, and he was telling me who he was and everything. And he said, so, you know, let me get a free shirt and we'll give you a promotion. We got an Instagram and everything. So I'm like, all right, cool.
Word.
So yeah, we went outside. I gave him a shirt, you know, did a shout out for Underpaid clothing, and yeah, it was awesome, you know, to see him rocking the shirt later on in the graffiti pic.
Yeah, exactly. That was sweet. Yeah. I seen the whole video. I'm like, I wonder if he actually wore it. I saw it, and then I went to the next one. I'm like, oh, he did.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it's awesome.
He's a man of his word. That's awesome, and it's cool that somebody of notoriety is even rocking. They're digging the Underpaid stuff too, because you know, even somebody who let's say has some money still has the same feeling of, you know, people do deserve more. You know what I'm saying? And he gets the movement, and that's sweet, and it's cool that you have such a broad message. Now, can I ask you with this was it all stemmed from the message, or did you have the idea of clothing first and then the message was like, you know what, let me base it around this?
I actually have been wanting to start a clothing company for a really long time. I've always liked designing shirts. Like 10, 15 years ago, I started airbrushing shirts and loved doing that. So I always loved designing clothes. And one day I just designed the Underpaid design, the Hello, I'm Underpaid.
Yeah.
And that just kind of stemmed off. I'm a former graffiti artist. I
Okay.
say former because I don't do it on the streets anymore. Yeah, so that design, you know, graffiti artists like to, you know, write on stickers and slap them up places on
Tag the
hello
place up,
stickers.
yeah.
Yeah. So I came up with that design, and I made the shirts myself back then. And I would just wear it around, and everybody who saw me wearing it was like, yo, that shirt's awesome. I got comment, and I still get comments about it. Like, whenever I'm wearing it in public, people are constantly commenting on it. Like, I love your shirt. Where'd you get it? So I knew I had an idea there, and previously I actually was going to start another clothing brand called Out for Fame Clothing, and later changed the name to Underpaid Clothing. Make the whole brand, around that subject.
That's sweet. Yeah, because I know for a fact, like, seeing that was the main reason I initially even walked up to your booth. You know what I'm saying? Is seeing this particular shirt, and you were wearing it, and you say you usually bring a friend with you. Your friend was wearing it, and I was like, what the hell? What's going on here? I'm like, are you? I thought it was so cool. Like, I thought you might have been reselling somebody else's thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see people reselling Supreme and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, you created that's lit. That's awesome, because
thank you.
It's corporate greed's a wild thing. It's a wild thing, and nobody really ever steps up to it. And it's cool that at the local level, you're doing that. And oh, my bad, I'm rambling. This was leading me to, when you go to these local shows, for anybody who's just starting and doing the clothing, how important it is to go to these local venues and try to push your stuff. Like, what is that, like the base of everything?
I think it's super important to get to know the community. I do it because it's also nice to get to know the art community and, vibe with them. Super supportive community, and I've always wanted to. I'm an artist myself. I create all the designs myself. So I've always wanted to get more into the art community, and I think it's super important just to get the name out, hand out postcards, hand out stickers, and yeah.
You're a real, like, boots on the ground movement, like physically, literally handing things out and, saying I have merch, this and that, and you put the hard work in. Does that hard work ever get a little too tiring? Like, how do you handle all this, owning your own clothing line?
Yeah, it does get tough, especially running, working a full-time job and having a side hustle, but I just kind of remind myself the purpose of why I'm doing it in the first place. There's a deeper meaning to it than just selling clothes, and something that I care so deeply passionate about. Because like you said, there's no one really, speaking out against corporate greed on like, as far as like another company, like I'm a company speaking out against corporate greed, and there's no other clothing brands that are doing that.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, because most of them, they'll like be a clothing brand. They'll just, first big company is like, hey, we'll give you a minimal amount for all your effort. They'll say yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's cool that you're sticking up against that. You know what I mean? Like, that's a huge thing. Is you're like, you come in here, you're wearing the shirt, you have all the shirts, you're totally about that brand. It's like, it's a beautiful thing. It's this beautiful thing, like,
Thank
also
you.
with, musicians as well that are grinding, keep doing it, by the way. Don't ever fucking stop, and it's great that there's people out here really standing for something, and I'm going to let it off to this guy. I keep rambling because I fuck with your shit since, like, the second I saw it. You know what I mean? I'm like a fan sitting here. You know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
Like, when you said you got me the hat, I was like, what? Sweet. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
No, I think it's important to have a meaning, though, to have a purpose behind it, and not just be like, another lifestyle brand that has no meaning to it. And
Or someone's name.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
so I decided, like, let me just actually stand for something, something I believe in. There's not a lot of smaller companies that are speaking out about it. You got politicians like Bernie Sanders speaking out about it, but you got, like,
That's one.
Yeah.
Singular.
yeah, pretty much politicians
Yeah.
speaking out about it.
Now, here's a big question I got, and let's fast forward 5-10 years, whatever it is. You're the CEO and owner of Underpaid Clothing. You have about, I don't know, let's say 100 workers under you. You're the corporate person. What do you do to separate yourself from these other corporations to make you not be the corporate greed person? Just out of curiosity.
Well, definitely starting with paying the workers fairly because it'd be a little bit hypocritical if I was underpaid clothing and not paying my workers a good enough wage. So I would say that's a good story, you know, because with social media, you know, people would be like, you know,
What the hell?
this underpaid clothing, she's, you know, paying her workers shit. But no, I mean, you know, I definitely know the importance of that as well. I see the importance as a company that you have to pay and treat your workers right for them to care, for them to give a crap about working for your business. You know, how am I going to expect my workers to be passionate and do a good job and be good workers if they're not going to be paid fairly?
That's yeah, you're right. I feel like you're talking directly to my current job. Hey, what's going on? You know what I mean? But no, yeah, that'd be ironic.
Same.
Yeah. Just keep looking at the fucking camera because this one's really hitting home for me. No, that's good though. Yeah, fair wages too now, and I also think another one big too that might get undercut with like the corporate thing is like good work environment. Like that, I feel like that would be that's huge because just how many of these clothing brands that literally get their stuff made in sweatshops, and these people are making pennies in some foreign country. You know, even children. You know, you're gonna keep if you ever get big, you're gonna keep it in a U.S. based company. You feel?
Yeah, definitely. That's something. I watched a documentary on YouTube about companies that make their clothes in sweatshops. And it's disgusting. Like, there are these companies that are billion-dollar corporations here, but are still having their goods made in sweatshops where children are working for like a quarter a day. All they get to eat is a bowl of rice at the end of the day. They got, when it rains out, the sewage comes up from, and they're living in these huts that look like jail cells. They look like, and they get to be like 110 degrees. When it rains and floods, all the sewage comes up and floods their homes. It is absolutely disgusting. If they speak out and want to actually do something about it, unlike here where you're allowed to speak out and let your voice be heard, if they want to quit their job, they run the risk of being shot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's wild.
It's crazy. And it actually sickens me. I definitely, there's too many to name, but if anyone wants to know, just do a Google search. I've done it myself. Do a Google search. Companies that make their goods in sweatshops.
Wow.
And all of them will come up. And
It's like a laundry list.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, there's a couple websites that will show like the top 10 or the top 15 companies that still utilize sweatshops, and I make sure not to shop there. And yeah, it's disgusting. So I definitely keep it US based. I do a lot of research to make sure that the blank t-shirts and the blank apparel that we print on is not produced in sweatshop environments and is produced in an ethical working conditions.
Well, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's definitely
I didn't
something.
know you could do that. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
sweet.
it's definitely something I wanted to look into before starting the brand.
Now, that just piqued my curiosity. Now, you send your design and get them printed, or you print them yourself, or like how does that work?
They're actually printed locally on Long Island. I don't print
shout
them
out.
myself. I tried that back in the day, and screen printing is its own craft in itself, so I decided to leave it for the professionals.
Master one craft at a time type of deal.
Yeah, for sure, because I care about quality as well, so I definitely wanted to make sure that, you know, the professionals were taking care of it and not doing everything myself.
Word.
There's so many other aspects of running a business that you got to take care of. That one, you know, it doesn't need to be done by me.
Straight up, I might sound like an asshole asking this, but I just want to be open on the show because what's the point? But before I go into it though, I want to say that I love how it's super relatable. I feel like a lot of people can relate to this.
For sure.
And another thing too, I love how you're doing something about it. It's not just, you didn't make a tweet, You didn't just make a Facebook status. You are really doing something about what you're passionate about. Do you feel, when it comes to this design specifically, do you feel that some people may be a little reluctant to having this message on their apparel? Because no one wants to put themselves down.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts to people who may have that thought?
That's a deep question. Well, I don't think that I do see where you're coming from, and I have thought about that myself, and that's why I have, different designs as well.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think that the people who think that way maybe don't buy it. It's definitely, a bold message, and it's definitely for a certain niche of people that want to do something about it. There is a decent amount of people who would say that they would not wear it to work, but then I also have some people that are like, yeah, I wear it to work all the time. So,
You think those people hate their job?
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
It's a great way to broadcast it to your boss too. You know what I mean? For sure.
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, all the time when I'm doing events and doing shows, I get it all the time. Like, I should wear that to work on Monday. People say it all the time.
Yeah. No, and you know too, I was thinking about it. You said that it may seem maybe like people don't want to do it, but also it's the message behind it. It's like, I guess, just deeper. What I think when I see it, and this is for everybody else, you should think this way too. No, it's like you're just trying to express yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and fuck what anybody has to say about that. Express yourself however you want. Who gives
Yeah,
a shit?
exactly.
You know what I mean?
I think that's the best way to live life is
Yeah.
live life authentically, and
Yes.
who cares what other people think?
No, for sure. No, it's, man, this one's just swinging home so hard for me because like I just had a shitty day at work too.
Did you?
This was like the perfect like cherry to the fucking. Oh man, just want to knock somebody out at work, and then you're just like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna interview somebody that's all against jobs. Thanks, like awesome.
So you're gonna wear the hat to work tomorrow?
Absolutely, 110%. Yeah, I'm gonna wear. And I always wear it backwards. I'm gonna be doing one of these when I walk through the front door. Like, look at that. Well, not the Yankee hat per se. But, you know what I mean?
Since you came out and like we're doing this, is there anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah. What do you want to get across?
I think something definitely does need to be done about corporate greed because it's only getting worse and worse each year. I think in 2017, the average CEO made 312 times what the average employee makes. And 50 years ago, that ratio was 20-1. So corporate greed is getting worse. The middle class is getting less and less buying power because they're making less and less money. And I think what a lot of people don't understand about that is that could potentially lead to an economic collapse because if the rich are the only people with the spending power and the rich are the only people with the money able to afford things, then how are we going to have a sustainable economy?
Yeah.
So I think that it is a serious issue, and I think it is something that has to be addressed with whoever the next president is.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully it's one that does want to do something about it and doesn't want to just give money to the rich because
Yeah. Why do they need it?
it's yeah. I mean,
Like, come on now.
they're not gonna spend it as much as the middle class is because they're most likely gonna invest it, and it keeps getting worse and worse. People keep getting it harder and harder, and it's just ridiculous because the federal minimum wage hasn't been raised in 10 years, and it's now the longest streak, the longest wage freeze we've ever had in the minimum wage, and it's crazy. Colleges are becoming incredibly unaffordable, And people
Yes.
feel like they can't afford to go to college, but they also feel like they can't afford to not go to college.
Yeah, right.
You know, so where do you catch a break there? And it's you know, my own personal story. I graduated college, and my first job out of college, I went to college school for graphic design,
Mm-hmm.
and my first job out of school only paid $12 an hour.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is what I went to school for, to make
Yeah.
like a couple bucks more than the minimum wage.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, it's just it needs to be talked about more. Also, toxic workplaces, you know, treating workers like crap needs to be talked about more.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of that going on, and it's crazy, you know.
No, yeah, it is for sure wild. And that's funny too, you're talking about the $12 an hour thing. I went to go for a job as a garbage man, right? And I put down wanted my wage to be $9 an hour, and that's when minimum wage was like $8.75, and I didn't get hired because I put $9 down. To
That's
be a
crazy.
Garbage man.
That's crazy. Like,
Hashtag Village of Lindenhurst. No, it's fucking.
And that's kind of the ironic part about everything, because the business owners are focused on the money, not the
Yeah.
people, but the people help them bring in the money.
Yeah.
So it's fucked up.
Yeah.
yeah, and
You
the
know?
thing is that, like, first of all, I gotta say, like, how can you be so greedy asking for a quarter more? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, for real, you tell me my time isn't worth $9 an hour? That's crazy. You can't. You tell another individual $9 an hour. Nah, buddy, you ain't worth it. Even though you got to ride on the back of a garbage truck all day.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
No, for sure. And you know what's funny too is you're talking about them feeding the rich more money. It's funny when you talk about the rich and how they spend their money. You know, unfortunately, Notre Dame got burnt down in France, right? The whole fire, yeah. And they almost instantly, a billionaire gave up $300 million of his money to help fix it. Yet, Flint, Michigan still has dirty water.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like, people worship a building more than they worship people.
Yeah, a whole literally town of people cleaning themselves with water bottles. But this landmark, oh, we got to fix it immediately. You know what I'm saying?
It's crazy.
Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that people want to fix this ancient landmark or whatever. But at the same time, it's like you have people now that don't have a basic necessity in the world, and you're not forking over any money for it. Anything. And there's always an excuse on why.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. It's fucking mind-boggling. And that's why shit like this, Underpaid, you need to start paying your people more, because you have people that go home from their job and can't even drink clean water. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild.
And it's just excuses. Like, the biggest excuse I see is, like, how are we going to pay for it? Like, that's what people will say. Like, people will be like, Flint, Michigan doesn't have clean water. And they'll be like, well, how are we going to pay for it? You
Yeah.
know? How are we
Yeah.
going to pay for people to have clean water? It's like, you need clean water to live.
Usually
You-
the person that's saying how are we going to pay for it is the person that has enough money to try and fix it. You know what I mean?
Or the same person who's
Yeah.
willing to fork over billions for a border wall.
Yeah, ex-
Meanwhile, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you tell us your plans for the future with all this?
I definitely want to take it to the next level. Definitely want to help out in any way I can, whether that's donating to a cause that speaks out about corporate greed and fights against corporate greed. Definitely want to motivate more people to get involved, to do what they love, because I feel like there's also so many people that hate what they do and are, you know, maybe chasing that dream job like I was and are just miserable, but just don't want to do anything about it. So I think that by following your own passion and by you know, doing what you actually want to do, I feel like just starting out that way, and eventually the money will come. And you know, because it's also about happiness and loving what you do. You know, that's also a big part of it, because you know, if you feel like you're not getting enough money but you love what you're doing, then maybe you don't feel as underpaid, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
You're getting paid in emotion more
Exactly.
than
You're
anything.
getting the
Yeah.
value in how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More than what you
so
make.
I feel like there's not a lot of people that do love what they're doing, and I feel like that has to be found. So I'd love to, you know, motivate some more people to actually go for it and do that.
And I'm glad you bring up happiness and not the money.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's refreshing to hear from
Yeah.
someone.
Because people can be underpaid in emotions from their job, and
Yes.
underpaid in how they feel about their work and their job. Another one for you. You know what I mean? And that's honestly, money is important to help you sustain your life for some reason, but you being happy is just as important. You know, it's
For
what you're
sure,
doing.
yeah.
Absolutely, and that's a great message. I'm glad we have somebody like that on our show. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
that has that type of message.
Yeah, because I've worked for companies and I've been miserable, like absolutely miserable. Like, you know, when like you just hate going to work every day and you just dread it.
Yeah.
Like I would wake up and get anxiety about going to work
Yeah.
today, and it's like it shouldn't be that way.
7 a.m. You have
know?
anxiety. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
like-
it's the worst.
Yeah, like it shouldn't be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. Like there are companies that pay their workers right. There are companies that treat their workers right. One of the things I wanted to bring up was, you know, there's a lot of debate right now about raising the minimum wage. And, you know, one of the biggest debates that I see about it is people saying that, well, like, how the excuse is that, well, the cost is just going to be brought onto the consumers. And it's like, well, it doesn't have to be that way, because companies like Aldi's and Costco has some of the lowest prices around, yet they pay their workers well above minimum wage and have been doing so for years.
Shout out
now.
to them. Yeah. Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, yeah. You know, what's hilarious is I think I seen that on your Instagram story earlier today, right?
Yeah.
I was like, word.
I was saying that earlier.
Yeah. That's a good warm up for the interview. I seen that. I was like, all right, I get exactly what you're on about the whole corporate and everything too, because, you know, minimum wage, it's minimum wage. You know what I mean? Just pay them. It's the
Yeah,
minimum.
I mean,
Like,
there's no excuses. You know, there's so many people fear mongering and like saying there are people out there that are calling companies that pay their workers a fair wage socialist. You know, like since when did paying a fair wage become socialism? I don't know. When did that happen?
yeah, beats fucking me.
Thanks for coming up.
We appreciate
You know,
it.
spending your time with us. First interview did really
Yeah,
good.
that was awesome.
Thanks
Did
for
really
having
good.
me,
Yeah,
yeah.
no problem at all.
Where can everybody follow you on your social media? Follow you on your journey.
I'm on Instagram, Underpaid Clothing, no funny spelling. Facebook, Underpaid Clothing, no spaces or funny spelling. Also on YouTube, hello, I'm Underpaid. We're also on Twitter, Underpaid_co. And yeah.
Awesome.
Follow it.
Well,
Check
follow.
it out, guys.
Yeah.
Support the movement. I know you guys fucking resonate with this.
Yeah, you got to be kidding me if you don't.
Check it out. Give her a follow. You know what the fuck going on.
Thank you very much.
Underpaid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was great.